my voice. So recording is started, so I will basically, it captures everything that I show on the screen. As the semester progresses, those will be both PowerPoint and coding, live coding, and anything writing. So I'm going to attach something to my computer that will actually project on the screen and also get captured. So that's something to be an aid in your studying and also just a review. Since it's a video, you can speed it up, you can slow it down, you can do all kinds of things with it, and you don't have to be concerned, oh, did I hear? I pretty much yell, so I think my voice projects possibly too well. The neighbors in my office complain of noise when I start laughing. But that said, there might be something that you're like in the middle of coding and you don't hear what I said or somebody else said, and that will be captured on the video. So it's supposed to be an aid. It's not supposed to be perfect. So this is not going to be a perfectly captured video because, for one, I'm not sitting in front of my computer focused on the screen. So nobody will be talking at you, which is what's missing in the communication, but it's still something that should be very helpful for your review. And I will post things on YouTube channel. You can probably find that YouTube channel right away. You will notice that my name is a little bit on the complicated side, complicated to remember side, which is good and bad. The good thing is that, as far as I can tell, there is no other Masha Prodanovic online out there. Or maybe there is one, but not old enough to have all of the online stuff. So most often than not, I'm going to be the first one that pops up on Google search of any kind, YouTube or otherwise. So my channel should not be difficult to find, provided you know how to spell my name. Okay? And if you ever forget, well, you go to the PGE faculty website, find faculty list, and the one under last name P complicated, that's me, okay? No, there are two of us. Dr. Perch is P complicated. Oh my God. Well, the one that is P complicated but not called Michael, that should be, that should be. So there's myself, Masha Prodanovic, and Michael Perch. Both of us, our spelling of the last name is a bit of an issue. The name comes originally from Croatia, but I'm soon about to be the same amount of time that I spent in Croatia is equal to that in the United States. So I'm this bit of a strange hybrid, and will continue to be. My accent is here to stay, so I'm not gonna ever really improve much on it beyond what it is right now. That said, whether it's because of an accent or anything other, please slow me down if you need to. I do tend to speed up when I talk. So just say, could you repeat that? Regardless of the recording, I would like you to be able to understand everything that I say in class. So I respond really well to email. Good luck finding me by phone. I tend to ignore my phone in the office, so leaving a message is better. You're better off leaving me an email. Okay? So quick introduction. Well, I already introduced myself. Because my name is what it is, I respond to a lot of things. You can call me Marsha, Masha, Masa, Dr. P, anything in between. I will likely perk up and say, well, yeah, is that me? Probably. So you can also find my website, and there's a bunch of things about my research right there. And again, I respond the best via email. You can find my phone, office phone there, but that's kind of a hit or miss. In terms of my background, so I already mentioned that I come from Croatia, which is on which continent? Europe, that's correct. It's kind of a small country. It has 4.5 million people, barely, and losing people. So, you know, that's not even the city of Houston. Okay, so it's knowing one person from there, I guess it's a sort of a unique thing. I did my Bachelor's of Science in Applied Mathematics, which I ultimately applied to subsurface problems and flow and porous media. So here I am. I did my PhD. This is how I came to United States in New York State, 2000 to 2005, at Stony Brook University, also known as State University of New York at Stony Brook. And then I moved to Austin, 2005. The list of the rest is basically the research positions I moved through after my PhD, and I'm now an associate professor here at Petroleum Engineering, so I've been a professor here since 2010. Now, in terms of my research interests, I'm going to explain them, even though they're actually mostly computational. I do have a lab, and occasionally I go to the lab. And basically what you're going to see here is oil, which is colored red. It's really food coloring mineral oil. Same thing you will use in your petrophysics lab. Okay. We also have a porous medium here, which you don't see. You can kind of see a little bit. There are spheres in here. Those spheres are these polymer, awesome polymer things you can buy on Amazon that grow in water. Okay. So you can grow them in water. They suck in a lot of water. They're basically 99% water. They grow 1,000-fold volume-wise. And once they do since they're mostly water, they're index matched. So you don't see them with water. So you don't see where water or beads. You can kind of see their interfaces if you look really closely. What that enables us to see is we do have a porous medium in here in between all these spheres, just like a soil model or a sand model. And we can see trapping of oil in between here. And since these are very large beads, buoyant forces, so oil is always a little lighter than water, which makes it rise to the top. So this is essentially a reservoir model, which is the fun reservoir that you can easily shake things out of and let them go. So you can play with this with 3 of those, so when you take a look at it. And what's cool is that buoyant forces and capillary forces that typically keep these blobs trapped actually can equilibrate in this system because the grains are large enough. So you can observe how trapping happens in any kind of porous medium, and you can observe what will keep you employed as a petroleum engineer. No matter what we do, there is always oil that is left behind, precisely because of the mechanisms that happen here, except that in an actual rock, and I'm going to send around some actual rocks. This is a sandstone. You can actually clearly see sandstone grains that are fused together. And this is a limestone, which is formed by evaporation, but again, it has pore spaces that are, how many times? This is a 1 centimeter grain. Typical grain here could be, let's make it 500 microns across. So 1 centimeter divided by 500 microns. Micrometer is 10 to the minus 6. How many orders of magnitude are those apart? You can take a piece of paper and quickly divide. But basically, however many orders of magnitude in difference, so we have diameter of 1 centimeter, which is 1 times 10 to the minus 2. This is awful choice of color. Invisible choice of color. 10 to the minus 2 meters divided by 500 times 10 to the minus 6 meters. I'm going to let you work out the math, how many times the grains in an actual rock are smaller, but it's that many times that the capillary force that keeps these blobs is stronger. Okay? So since it's that much stronger, we cannot shake oil out anymore out of the reservoir. It requires petroleum engineering degree and all kinds of enhanced oil recovery methods to actually get the oil out once it gets trapped in the reservoirs. Okay? So anyway, long story short, is what I do is a lot of computational methods that actually simulate the trapping that you see in actual images of rocks. So we can take X-ray microtomography images of the rocks that I have just seen, and we can actually see those pores on micron scale. Okay? It takes sort of X-ray energy that would kill a person, but it doesn't do anything to a rock. Okay? And for research purposes, we often reveal the microstructure and how it looks like. And basically one such image with simulated blobs that I want you to compare to those red blobs out there. So here you see sort of gray is the sandstone pore space interfaces. They're a little more complex than those of spheres. And what you see in blue is blobs that have been trapped by the same type of forces that you see up. So that's sort of a short version of what I do for research. Now, how is that actually connected to what you're going to learn in this class? For that, we need numerical methods. Okay? And much more beyond what you're going to learn in this class. But this class is a start. It's a start in employing computers to help us figure out, hey, where are the fluids in subsurface? And how can I basically predict what's going to happen over the course of time in a reservoir rock? Okay? So again, you're not going to get to simulate this. You have to work a little harder to get there. Okay? But that said, this class is basically going to introduce you to how do we actually employ computers to repeat a whole lot of computation that we were basically otherwise unable to do by hand. And then get a prediction of how these trapped fluids look like. Okay. TA is sitting right here. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Ning Yu Wang. I've been the teaching assistant for this course for I don't know how many years. All I know is
Let's
that
not count.
everybody beyond your age, well, they've all had some experience with me.
Right.
Well, so most people in the student lounge know me. And so yeah, I got my previous degrees from China, and here I'm a PhD student working with Masha. And currently I'm working on some applications of ferrofluid, which ferrofluid is the dispersion of some nano-sized super-paramagnetic particle, which means maybe nano-sized magnetite. Magnetite is the thing that composes magnets. And you apply them into the underground, you can do enhanced oil recovery, or I'm applying it into pipelines, so I can do some flow assurance, so basically remove the wax. I wish I can graduate soon. Well, this week, not this week, but this semester I will help you out with this course. But I assure you that it will be tougher and tougher when we go to the other end of the semester on coding. But relax, you'll do it.
So, what coding requires? How many of you have any experience with coding? So most of you don't. That's fine. We don't assume you do. Here's what happens with coding. Computers are very exact and have their own language, just like we have language that we communicate with. Now, in your own life, with your family or otherwise, do you always communicate well? So don't expect to always communicate well with computers either. It takes an effort. Specifically, computers are very exact in the way that people are not. Okay? So if I just kind of mumble bye and walk out, you will basically, by my behavior, even though you didn't hear me say bye, you will realize, oh, I'm leaving. Okay? And you will say bye, and we will part. People fill in. Sometimes they fill in well for the information they don't know. Sometimes they don't fill in. Fill in some things they think you said, right? And you've probably been there. I thought you said blah, 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 and here comes an argument. Now, the problem with computers is that unless you clearly say bye and spell it correctly, they're not going to get it. And they're not going to fill in anything. These days, we're working on it. So these days, when you're typing a search online, let's say that you're searching something in your favorite, I'm going to throw in Google, but it could be any search engine. Okay? It starts filling in because actually it has collected information. You start typing something out and it starts continuing. But basically, because it has a library of things people have searched for, so it's attempting to be smart and fill in. But that's normally what people do, not computers. Okay? So in your coding, The difficulty will be telling the computer precisely without any spelling errors and within the language the computer is used to, not you, okay? Which is somewhat aligned with English, but not always, or not in the English that you actually use all the time. So basically, that's going to be the frustration. And you're going to, during the course of this work, trying to figure out how do you tell it precisely, and once you didn't tell it something precisely, how do you figure out how to actually correct your communication? And computer can help you some, but not always. So when there's no computer help, then there is use help. We are going to also have tutor for certainly one, but maybe two tutors in this class, and myself, so you can come in for help, but you can also team up with students in your class. What one person doesn't see, the other one, it's really easy to spot somebody else's errors. Have you noticed that? But your own might be difficult. And that's precisely the problem with coding. So I ask you for patience. Even with 20 plus, I'm not going to count how many years I've been coding. It's still sometimes frustrating because I don't see my own mistake. The only thing I've got better at is patience. Okay? And I've learned kind of what types of mistakes I commonly do and what are my ways of going about it. Sometimes it's just simply rewriting. And then you realize, oh, you know. So just patience and let's work on it. But that's the essential trouble in this class. It's sort of a new language. Imagine I didn't speak English, so I only spoke Croatian. How would we communicate? Well, if you've never done programming, that's where you're at, you and your computer. Okay? So we need to slowly build the vocabulary first and then start writing, start saying some sentences so that communication can ensue. Most of the information will be either said in class. I'm obviously recording the class, so you'll be able to access it if for some reason you cannot be in class. But also, we will have certain setup times other than class. So if everybody has a copy of the syllabus? No? Is there any extra copies? I don't have an extra copy. So I have one. Okay, so I apologize for that. I printed as many. Oh, they're out. But I know I printed it out. So there's one in here. There. That's one. And then one up there. Excellent. So, electronic version is available on Canvas. This is where our emails are. Again, typing things into a search engine will probably return my email as well because it's posted on the department website. Office hours are set up right now to be 11 till noon, so just before the class, 3 times a week. The only problem is that right now, and I'm going to email about it, my office is closed for HVAC conversion, and so is half of the 4th floor. So I will, for office hours, show up in the lounge. I'll find a table and make myself comfortable. Okay? And you just show up and ask me. If you need some private time during office hours, so there are different type of needs. Okay? Sometimes you're coming in for a problem, and often in my office hours, about 5 or 6 people gathers, and we work on something, and we go from person to person. Okay? So you have to expect that there will be somebody else in the office hours. If for some reason you need privacy, maybe you need to discuss an illness or something private, it doesn't matter, your grade, okay? Something that you don't want others to listen to, tell me. Okay? So we can I can kick everybody out while we talk, which is fine, okay? And you should be comfortable with that. But I might kick you out, talk to somebody else, or might invite you in and kick everybody else out. Okay? Or we can set up a different time where we can have that privacy. I also hang out right now in my lab, 3110. I just can't invite people to my lab because it's a lab, and lab has its own rules, so you cannot walk in shoes or open toes and all kinds of things like that. Okay? So I cannot have office hours in my lab. But you can can maybe knock on my door and maybe I'm around. Okay? So that's one thing. Again, just let me know how you need to communicate. I also have, and that's at the very end of this, there's an online way to anonymously communicate. So sometimes, and there's like a link, and in the PDF, that link will be active, so you can just click on it. So you can sometimes, there are different types of communication. Sometimes you can just, and feel free, I'm relatively unconventional in the way I'm communicating. I don't expect you to be formal or very formal. So wherever you're comfortable, you don't have to doctor or title me. I'm okay. But sometimes you're, for some reason, not comfortable identifying yourself while pointing out the problem. If that is the case, then you submit an anonymous little thing. Okay? And if you don't sign yourself, the only thing I don't know is the timestamp. When did you do so? Okay? So if for some reason you're not comfortable saying something, or maybe you just have to take off and go to another class and you really remember it at midnight when it's kind of the only options you have is sending an email or somehow communicate. Just please communicate. However you communicate. And we'll figure it out. So those I do check, and occasionally I will actually ask you to submit some results in class when I need some information. So that's also my polling. I can poll the entire class without actually necessarily asking for it. Okay? So please, again, email, talk in person, show up for office hours, set up separate time for office hours, find a tutor, whatever it is, just communicate, okay, and we'll be okay. Other than that, I will go over the course material and course textbook. So I will post most of the material online. So lectures will be available. Our first lecture, actually a copy of this, is already available on Canvas. Everybody knows how to use Canvas? Do we need to quickly log in and orient ourselves? So I'm going to log into Canvas, okay? So this is how there are no recent messages. So this is how, because I haven't posted anything yet, but basically if you go to Files, you will already see folders. There's homework folder. Did you set up? Did you put anything? Yes, it's empty. No homework yet. I'm like, did you already? There's how are you going to submit homework? Okay, so the rules are up here. Lectures folder already has this first PDF of the lecture. What I do is I print 2 slides per page. If that format for some reason is not something that you favor, please let me know. And then there is code. As we go through, there will be basically code. Every code that I type in class will also show up here. And this is where I'm going to share any type of the code. Okay? And then on YouTube, you can find right now nothing is posted, but once I post the first lecture, I will send you an email with the link. After that, most of the time, I will just silently post lectures. The reason is we're all getting way too many emails. So unless within a day or two, or you need the lecture that was posted, and I'm not maybe fast enough, just send me an email reminder. Don't be afraid to do so. Just say, can you please post the lecture? I try to do it the same day, but sometimes the day takes off, and it gets all busy. Okay? So most of the time, I'm focused on the videos do take processing, so I cannot do it immediately. I basically need about an hour to process the video and upload. Okay? So there's a little bit of a time lapse, but I do try to do it by the end of the day. Okay? But if for some reason I'm delayed, please email me and I'll do so. Otherwise, I don't want to send you another email. Let's just count that it's basically going to be there within a day, and if you need it sooner, please ping me. Okay? So that's as far as course materials go. I do not require you to buy a textbook. The second book on this list is actually, there's 2 books. One is basically on numerical methods, and the other one is just on Python. Python is going to be the language we're going to use. Basically, that second one is available as a PDF from library, so you can get it online. Okay. Other than that, I will not monitor whether you have books or not books. You will, if you need a book, please get one. But otherwise, I don't expect you to have one, and I will post as much material I think is required to actually master the class. The best is done. There's a lot of information about what we're going to learn online already. Okay, so you can actually just by a simple search find quite a bit of material. So that's why I don't consider it necessary to have a book. Okay? However, if you work well with books or want to have a book, then those two are good to get. Yeah. Again, everything is in the website. We're going to work over the course topics. And this is, I'm going to email about this, but I would like you to start looking at your schedule and whether exam 1 and 2 fit with your schedule. I tried to do 2 Wednesdays in the evening. Do any of you already know that today in the evening or normally on Wednesday evenings after 7 you already have something going on? There's often statics gets in my way. Statics on Wednesday? Because half of the class is Monday, Wednesday, and the other half is Tuesday, Thursday. Okay, so we're going to have trouble with that. So I'm going to send an email, and basically I will poll on how many of you have trouble with Tuesday versus Wednesday or something like that. Okay? And I'm going to collect that information and try to find the best time for the exam. And after that, we will set the time, and that's going to be it. Okay. Homeworks, we're going to have approximately 8 to 9 homework sets. First one, do you want to say something about it?
So about the homework, we're going to have usually 7 to 10 actually, depending on how we want to break it down. So sometimes actually the amount of questions is the same, but sometimes we want to put
the number of sets is
different. So sometimes we do 1 big set and sometimes we do 2 smaller sets, but the total number is the same. And so the requirement for the homework is in that big file of homework requirement. It is basically a collection of all the questions run into these semesters. So probably you'll find your question about the homework there, and if you still have questions, just come to me because I'm the one who's going to give, grade, return, do whatever to the homework, and I will host the office hours, and you're welcome to come, and if you cannot come during that hours and you want to talk to me, email me. You have my email there. And so for any communication, please try to directly email me at this address because the message system of Canvas is not that responsible. However, when I need to reach to you, since I don't have your email address, the only option for me to contact you is to email you via Canvas. So I'm sorry for that. Maybe that's inconvenient, but that's my only option.
So hopefully your Canvas is set up to email you directly or knows your email. So do double check that because there's a lot of information that goes back and forth through Canvas. Okay. And then we will have a computational project that's going to be near the end of the class, and it's basically you're going to get twice the amount. It's going to be twice the work you need to finish a homework, and it's going to be twice the time. And we will pair up, so you will work in pairs. It's kind of going to be a team project. Okay? And then one final thing is in terms of class participation. I don't monitor every time whether you're here. So that's a whole lot of micromanagement that I don't want to undertake. And since we do have a makeup version of you being able to watch things online, I don't think it's necessary. I do think it's necessary to occasionally quiz you and make sure that you're around. So I will do so. So if you expect not to be in class for whatever time, just for whatever reason, email me and state the reason. Okay. So I'm not going to penalize, and we don't have things that have to be completed in class. So I'm somewhat flexible, but not completely, and there's a reason for that. If I give you complete flexibility, nobody will be in class, and then we were going to have all kinds of problems in the semester. So there's a little bit of carrot and stick there. But again, you're responsible for organizing your study time, and that you're responsible for identifying what we need to actually carry this class through. So I trust that you can do so. Now, what I will do is that often we will code in And I will expect you to finish that coding project and submit it on Canvas. And that's actually going to stand in for class participation and for quizzes often. So here and there we're going to have 1 or 2 quizzes that are going to be written. The rest of them are actually going to be online in some shape or form. You're best off, your time is best managed if you actually spend the time you're here in class being in class. Not texting somebody else, not using the computer to communicate with the rest of the world, but actually completing what we need to complete here. And then basically submitting it immediately after the class. Okay? Or asking the question immediately if you need to ask something and just getting it done and over there. That said, if you don't, or you need to run to another class, or whatever the case might be with your schedule, you will typically have till the end of the day to actually complete it. And sometimes even an extra day. So I'm not a stickler for time, but I want you to complete. And I think that's the best course of action in general with anything that you want to complete. You don't have to be perfectly on time, you don't have to be the first in submitting anything, but you have to think about it and actually complete it, even if it takes a little longer. So I'm okay with a little longer. What I'm not okay with is you dropping the matter completely and not pursuing it anymore. And I think, again, things will go like up and down. You will have different classes that will take different amount of your time, and sometimes some will be more intense than the others. I'm open to that. Just don't drop the ball. As long as you don't drop the ball, we're okay. So just, if you have a problem or maybe some private matter that is basically making it difficult for you to complete things, let me know. We'll work with that, whatever that might be. Okay? But I don't want you to drop the ball. So I'm here to kind of help you through the process, but I also need to know about what's going on so that I can be a little more flexible. Okay? But then at the same time, when there's nothing else impeding your work, I do expect you to do it. Okay? So again, be honest with yourself, assess the help you need, and we'll get you that help, and we'll get you more. All right, that's basically all I'm gonna say about it. Grading is stated on the homework, on the syllabus. So 20% will be homework and projects, 10% is quizzes and this participation in class that is often completed a little after the class, 20% exam 1, 25% exam 2, and 25% final exam. So that's essentially how we do. If you have any issue with any kind of grading, if Ningyu was grading it, most of the homeworks are graded by Ningyu, you first go to Ningyu. If you're not happy with his answer, then you go to me. You might not be happy with his answer. Okay? What I'm looking for, and he comes from a tough university, so he's a tough grader. Okay? What I'm looking for, he can be tough, okay? But he needs to be fair. Okay? So if everybody got 10% taken off for some problem, we can debate entire day whether that was worth 10% or 20% or 5%. That's almost like on market trading, okay? As long as he set up the rule and he's making it fair, so everybody who didn't have that completed got the same amount off, then we're good, okay? So I'm not gonna go nitpick why did he decide for a certain problem to carry a certain way, okay? So first go to him, try to negotiate, try to figure out what happened, and then if you're not happy with that answer, then bring it to me. Same thing goes with me, except that above me, I guess you can go to Dean. So that might be a little difficult. But again, I am open. I am open to criticism. I'm open to constructive discussion, always. Okay? But ultimately, what I want you to just think about is that grades are important, but they're not the important thing. The important thing is for you to learn and feel engaged. And if you are, then by the end of the course, we're going to be fine. And whether that's A minus, B plus, B minus, that's ultimately relevant. Okay? Okay? So just what you want to ask yourself is, are we fair and equal to everybody else? Equal to everybody. Okay? All right. with that, I'm going to move on to our motivation. So just to set up motivation, why are we here? Why do you need to learn this? So basically, if you want to solve, we want to solve problems. You're in an engineering department, you want to solve problems. Now, you could have gone to College of Sciences or College of Engineering when you were picking your major. What's the difference? There's no petroleum science, but let's go to chemistry. There's chemistry, there's chemical engineering. What is the difference between discipline as a science versus discipline as an engineering?
Theory versus practicality.
Yeah, so in science we can just isolate something and just study it because we want to figure out how it works. Knowing how it works obviously helps in applying it, but sometimes we just know about something without directly applying it. And sometimes we need for technology to catch up. So for instance, a lot of things on nanometer scale. What's a nanometer? I think you mentioned nanoparticles. What is a nanoparticle? 10 to the minus 9. So that is 1,000 times smaller than your hair. 1,000 times smaller. Okay? Those are the particles these days that we inject into reservoirs. We've known a whole lot of theory about them in 1960s. And famous physicist Richard Feynman worked on a lot of nanotechnology concepts. We just couldn't execute them. We couldn't build anything on nano size, right? Or control for it, or like be able to see it. So microscopes and the technology, little robotic arms that can actually build something on nano scale, are now developing big deal. Right? So the practice part took a moment to catch up with the theory. So all of this points out the different legs of how we know certain things. There's theory, there's practice, there's people. The way people work is they kind of try something and then they work by trial and error. That's a lot of times engineering. But I don't know why this works out. I'm going to figure it out later. Right? Then we're going to first build a bridge and then maybe it doesn't hold and then I'm going to continue and improve. And there's a lot of iteration in the process. And that's how we learn, that's how we find. And that's fine. So one example in Austin is everybody knows the Lady Bird Lake. It's not a lake, it's a dammed river. So it took Austin, or City of Austin, to figure out how to build those dams efficiently without them breaking down with the next flood. I think it took 5 iterations for the dam that is holding basically in the water and controlling the water getting into the Lady Bird. And that happened in 1920s and 1930s. And before that, they would build a dam, and then the bigger flood would show up and just tear it apart. And then keep going, right? So that thing worked. Nothing wrong in iterating and learning. So the whole of the theory might have been known, but how it works out in the actual practical example might have not been known. And we are always pushing forward. We need both to push forward. We need theories, we need practice. Okay? And not only practice or in building it, would be in the lab. So I gave you some samples. I built that in the lab. But I also showed you a picture of the computational example of those blobs. Okay? So something that has developed with the development of computers, and again, technology needed to catch up, basically now helps us to have a third leg of investigation, which is computation. So we have theory, we have practice. Science is more involved in theory. Engineering is technically practice of science. Okay? And basically we work with however difficult things are. So engineers just simply design and build regardless. And often in very difficult environments. So something that is very much stand apart with petroleum engineering versus other engineering is that we don't build everything. We work with subsurface the way it is. We inject certain things and try to manipulate But ultimately, we don't build our reservoirs. And electrical engineers, they build everything they work with. Mechanical engineers, most of the time, also build everything. The car is built from scratch. And then when a car doesn't work, you can take it apart, isolate the part that is not working, and figure out how to improve it. Isolating a portion of the reservoir 3 kilometers underground is still a little difficult. We think it's isolated, we believe it is, that might have leaks. We might know about that, we might not know about that. So we have mapped quite a bit of surface, but a lot of it continues to be unmapped. We work with geoscientists on mapping, okay? But it's always an imperfect thing, and if you want to control everything, petroleum engineering is not a good choice for you. Because you're not going to control. Here's one case in point. There was it now 3 weeks ago, the earthquake in California that was in Mojave Desert? When was that? Every time I say 3 weeks, it turns out to be 5 weeks ago, but time passes by really quickly. A recent earthquake in California. So California is no stranger to earthquakes. Geologically, because it's at the border, there's a San Andreas fault between two tectonic plates there. And those plates are pushing against each other. Okay? So the Pacific plate is actually moving north at about 8 centimeters per year. It's moving north on top of melted rock. Okay? That's a very viscous fluid and provides a lot of resistance to it. So it's not an easy movement. So a lot of times there's a lot of energy that builds up in it not being able to move where it wants to move. And then occasionally it jumps. Okay? Along that fault, jumps, and that's an earthquake. Okay? So earthquake is sort of like a release of energy or a jump at a fault. Now, most of the faults that are around San Francisco, there's a lot of people living there. So a lot of people have recorded a lot about whatever shaking that might, or seismic shaking that might have happened. Except that in Mojave Desert, there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of oil and gas activity either. California has quite a bit of oil and gas. So oil and gas, we drill holes, we monitor things in those holes. So we also have recordings from those. Well, it turns out that the fault that has moved in the Mojave Desert, causing a small earthquake, we didn't know about it. Geologists did not know about fault that is large enough to produce an earthquake. Okay? So we are continuously improving, and things that we can record today are amazing compared to what it was 50 years ago or 100 years ago. 100 years ago, it required somebody being there, a person, and that person knowing to write. And then writing it in some sort of record that actually persists. Was that ring? 100 years ago, most of the population did not know how to write. Okay? So that was not measured in 90% of population the way it is. Okay? So again, we're getting better, but we have to move on. So, petroleum engineers, this basically goes to say that we deal with some of the most complicated systems that we can monitor only somewhat, and implicitly, it's not a direct measurement. Okay? My patient, reservoir, if they're sick, I don't observe them and knock on them in front of me. I do that through a tube that is 3 kilometers long, if you're lucky, maybe longer, and not only going down, but also turning horizontally and then going for another 3. So that's the problem. Right? And the only way to communicate with that patient is through a bunch of fluid moving back and forth and measurement of the pressure, give or take. Okay? So it's difficult. Further, the temperature and pressure increase as we go deeper. Do you know by how much? So I know per kilometer, 23 degrees Celsius per kilometer. Okay, so at 3 kilometers, what's the temperature? If it's 40 Celsius degrees in Texas, which it often is, okay, 40 Celsius plus 23 times 3 is about boiling for water. Okay? So not only that we have high temperature, if we have high temperature, that is very likely to cause phase changes, which is why we torture you with thermodynamics. Or rather, Dr. DiCarlo tortures you with thermodynamics. How many of you are in thermodynamics in Parallel? There we go. So we're going to learn what phase changes happen in that. Now, how much stress changes before we close for the day? Also, curiously goes in 23 megapascals per kilometer. 1 pound per square inch is what we typically, that's the expression, so basically 1 psi per foot. So it's like add extra pound of weight every foot, and then go 9,000 feet. Okay? So that's a lot of extreme stuff. So we will continue our introduction on Friday. I see you at noon.